This is by the lady over there. She was asking if you still got contact to other Memphis Mafia members.
Well, what few of them there are left, yes. You know, we lost Red and Sonny West, and Dick Grove, and Joe Esposito, and Joe Gercio, and there's not many of us left, really. Dave Hebler, I still have contact with him. He lives in Texas. Jerry Sheff lives in Texas. And Jerry Schilling, of course, yeah. Jerry, he's in Los Angeles. Jerry still lives in the same house on Sunset that Elvis bought him. Yeah. And he bought me a house, but I don't live there anymore. But he, Elvis was a very generous man, probably generous to a fault, to be quite honest with you. Vernon told me one time that when Elvis was a little boy, they'd buy him a set of little pistols, and he'd come home missing one, and he'd say, well, I gave it to little Johnny because he didn't have one. And so when he grew up the same way. But yeah, there's not many of us. I guess we were talking, I think, Larry, you, and Ed Enoch. That's about it, isn't it? For the and Donnie Sumner. Yeah, and that's about it for there's not many of us left. But yeah, I try to stay in touch with everybody. I'm Switzerland.
Thank you for coming and being a part of this. Right up after this, Linda Thompson comes and we will spend an hour with her talking about her life and all the things that she's done. And Sam, do you have any stories on her you could tell quickly? But you'd rather not.
That she doesn't want us to hear. But she's already in the room. So.
Linda Thompson, everybody. Please give a big round of applause to our gentlemen who are on the panel today. Paul Lyon, Jane Peaster, Larry Strickland, Sam Thompson. Tomorrow, from 4 to 6, the gentlemen will be signing autographs, and the next day it'll be 4 to 6 here. And the next day, the ladies will be here to sign autographs. And let's see.
And I'm also here because I'm selling photographs for them for you to sign. Yes. So we're going to arrange that we've got a table over here, and I just want to make one more announcement. Linda is already sitting here and like to listen to that. Everybody who had made a photograph, I said that again yesterday. You can pick them up at the door. We got the envelope there with your camera. Yeah, don't forget it. Yeah. We're going to introduce some questions, that Craig is going to ask, and then we would like to ask you to ask questions to Linda. Yeah, we're going to translate English, German, so don't tell 10 minutes because I cannot remember that.
Okay, I'll try not to.
You are a Memphis girl.
I am a Memphis girl.
I've known people, my wife is also from Memphis, Donna.
I know that.
And you grew up kind of watching her. But you strike me when I talk to you as a country girl.
Oh yes, both of my parents grew up in the country, and that's one of the things that Elvis and I had in common when we first met. I often say that we knew each other before we knew each other because we had grown up the same way with the same religious fervor, the same cuisine, the same love of family and familial ties. So we just were kindred spirits when we first met. We just said, I know you.
Your mother and father were marching in Sanford.
Yes.
Where did they grow up? I'm just kind of trying to understand where you came from.
Okay, my daddy was from Moab, Arkansas, and it's a tiny little town. One service station, one street light, one pharmacy, one little grocery store. It was like if you blink, you've missed the town. And my mother was from rural Tennessee. She was from a place called Dyersburg, and the nickname for Dyersburg, Tennessee was Skull Bone Holler. So you know it was country. It was like Dolly Parton country.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in fact, my son, I have two sons, and my younger son, Brody, always, when I would talk to my family back in Tennessee, he would see me on the phone, he would say, Mom, what, honey? He said, are you talking to your family back in Tennessee? And I said, yeah, why? He said, because you sound like a hillbilly. I am a hillbilly.
It goes right back, doesn't it?
Ihr jüngster Sohn Brody hat dann eben halt immer als Kind gefragt, Mama, sprichst du wieder mit den Verwandten in Tennessee? Da sagte sie ja, da sagte ich, warum? Da sagt sie, weil du hörst an wie ein Hillbilly. Eben halt dieses typische Tennessee-mäßige Hillbilly Girl. Yes. Brody actually was born on the same day as James Burton and me, so we can celebrate our birthday together. August 21st. So.
But you're younger, right?
Then Brody? Then James Burton. Well, then the question, if I'm younger than James Burton? So that was the talk show with Linda Thomson.
Now, you finished high school in Memphis.
I did. I went to Kingsbury High School, oddly enough. In fact, because obviously Elvis is known as the King. I lived on Kingsbury. I went to school at Kingsbury High School and Kingsbury Elementary, and lived on Queensbury. So I thought that was just kind of funny.
Like a setup. You want to see this?
Yes, but it's very hard to translate to German. Somebody's touching me. Don't do that. People are looking at this. So, Elvis, der als King
What he
bekannt
said.
Now, in high school, what were your interests in high school?
I was an English major in high school. I was in the high school plays. I wrote poetry. So I have always loved English and literature and poetry and acting. So I was in these high school plays, and then when I went to Memphis State University, I was also an English and theater major. So those were my two interests: poetry, acting, and English. And just when I say English, I mean like literature, like beautiful prose and writing and books and things like that.
Okay, I just translate, but also trio. They actually, translated to English, it's trio with four fists. Well, I highly doubt that was the English language, but you played it.
Yeah, I did a lot of Aaron Spelling's television shows after Elvis and I were beginning to sort of drift apart. I started to do Riptide, Beverly Hills 90210, Love Boat, Fantasy Island, all of those old shows that you remember. And then Elvis and I used to watch Hee Haw on television every, oh, hello.
There she is.
I'm so loud now. We used to watch every Saturday. We would watch Hee Haw, and he loved that show. It was just rural country humor. It was like a country laugh-in. So it was just lots of comedy skits and country music. And after we broke up, we still talked on the phone. And I called him and I said, honey, you won't believe this. I am going to be one of the Hee Haw honeys. I'm going to be on Hee Haw this fall. And he couldn't wait to watch me. He said, oh my God, honey, I'm so glad. I can't wait to watch you on the shows. I said, they start airing in September. And of course, he very, very sadly died in August. So he never got to see me on Hee Haw. But he did know that I was going to be one of the honeys on there.
Okay, für jeden, der schon mal
Remarks, and I'd be going, yeah, sure.
it's totally in our hands.
She's on to you, Andy.
You won't believe what you're going to read in the next week.
Linda was in jail and she had to go to prison.
Should I translate that?
Yeah, sure. It's a joke.
At around the age of 22, I'm going to go backwards just a little bit. You got a telephone call inviting you to come, no?
No. I was Miss Tennessee Universe in the Miss USA pageant, and my roommate was Miss Rhode Island, and we got to be best friends. So she moved to Memphis, and she and I were walking down the street one day, and she said, there's a TGI Fridays, let's go get a hamburger, I'm hungry. And I said, oh Jeannie, we can't go in there. We are two unescorted women and they serve alcohol in there. And she said, what? And I said, yeah, we'll look like pickups because they serve alcohol, so we can't go in there. She said, get off your high horse, we're going to Fridays. So thank God for Jeannie LeMay, because I was too stiff and too much of a prude to even go in there, simply because they served alcohol, and it was for lunch, not even like a nightclub or anything. But that's how sheltered I had grown up. So we walk into TGI Fridays, and sure enough, there is, I knew him as Bill Browder, but T.G. Shepherd, he had a country music career. And T.G. was there with a group of men, and he said, Linda, hey, come on over, we'll buy you lunch. And I looked at Jeannie and I said, see, we're getting picked up. But they were going to the Olympian Theater that night, and he invited me and Jeannie to go.
If we scoot over, would that make the sound better? I think so.
I don't know.
They said.
You want me to go somewhere else?
That way we don't,
We're scooting.
So, ich mache trotzdem schon mal die Übersetzung. Die Linda war damals Miss Tennessee und sie war in einem Zimmer untergebracht mit dem Miss.
We had lunch, and then Bill Browder said, would you girls like to come to the Memphian Theater tonight? Elvis screens movies. He rents out the entire theater and screens movies. And Jeannie said, yeah, we'll be there. And I said, no, we can't, we have to work. We were modeling as Miss Tennessee and Miss Rhode Island. She said, forget it, we'll get substitutes. So my cousin Shelley and one of her friends went, and I think it's you.
It's always Andy.
Better?
We'll call you when we need you. So anyway, I ended up getting my cousin Shelley to go and do the modeling job for us. And I got in a lot of trouble because they didn't want my cousin Shelley and her friend. They wanted Miss Tennessee and Miss Rhode Island. But at any rate, thank God, we blew that off and went to the Memphian because I met Elvis at the Memphian Theater that night, and my world changed forever. My world became something quite different.
Also als die beiden dann
And Elvis walked in. I was standing there talking to David Stanley prior to the movie starting. David Stanley is Elvis's stepbrother. And something banged on the door, and the guys all ran to the door to open the door. And Elvis stood there with this long black flashlight, black cape with a stand-up collar, the high collar, a red satin lining in the cape, and black flared pants with red satin trim and insert. And he came sweeping in, he was flashing the light in everybody's face, and he said, why was this door locked? Why was this door locked? You should have known this door is the one I'm coming in. And they were all saying, sorry boss, we thought you were gonna come in the other door. And he flashed the light in my face, and he went, well, hello there. And his whole demeanor changed from that of aggression and anger to charm. He was like totally charming. He walked over to me, and David Stanley said, boss, this is Linda Thomson. She's Miss Tennessee, and this is Jeannie LeMay. She's Miss Rhode Island. So it was small talk, and we just kind of chatted for a few minutes. And he said, are you girls ready to go see the movie? He said, yeah, sure. What are we watching? He said, doesn't matter. It's okay, fine. You're right. It doesn't matter. So we go inside, and nobody ever sat in the row that Elvis sat in. He was one seat in the middle row with a little TV tray, and he would have his large Pepsi and Tipperole cigars and maybe some popcorn. And no one was allowed to sit in front of him or in the same row. Everybody sat behind him. George Klein was there. So George sat next to me, and Elvis kept turning around. I was about 3 rows behind him. Elvis kept turning around, talking to me, and he was showing me some diamond bracelets and watches that he had on. Do you like these, honey? I said, yeah, they're beautiful. And he just kept trying to talk to me. And then he went like that, which meant roll them. So the projector started. And after the movie started, like within seconds, Elvis got up, walked down the aisle, tapped George Klein on the shoulder. George got up. A few minutes later, I feel someone sit next to me, and I'm thinking it's George Klein. So I turned, and it was Elvis. So he came and sat next to me, and I said, oh, to what do we owe? Now it's not you. Now it's me. I said, to what do we owe this honor? And he said, oh, well, honey, I just want to come and sit next to you and get to know you a little bit. And I thought, oh, that's sweet. He's gentlemanly, but I still thought he was married. And of course, I didn't even go into an establishment that served alcohol. I was never gonna date a married man. So I was standoffish, and he started flirting with me and trying to put his arm around me. And I turned to Jeannie and I said, we have to go. This is becoming inappropriate. And he said, honey, you know I'm not married anymore, don't you? I said, no, I have no idea. So, you know, everything then, from then on, it was, where have you been all my life? I've been waiting to meet a girl like you, and I want you to come to Graceland tomorrow night to meet my father. And I said, okay. So the next night, we were there until like 4 o'clock in the morning, watching these 2 movies, kissing and getting to know each other. It's like kids, like teenagers in a movie, you know, like sneaking kisses now and then. And then the next day, Jeannie and I went to Graceland, and I met Mr. Presley. I always called him Mr. Presley out of respect, Vernon Presley. And Elvis, and he took me on this ride in a crazy little golf cart. We went over cornfields and death-defying driving. And you know, that began our relationship. I actually left town that night for 2 weeks, and it kind of drove him crazy, even though I told him I was going to leave. So that might have, you know, piqued his interest. I don't know.
To put this together into
I'm
a German
sorry, I know.
translation within
Blah, blah,
20
blah, blah,
seconds.
blah.
No, this is why you are here. This is,
How
I
many
would
people
like-
understand English, right? You know, yeah, everybody, I think almost everybody. But
So, I
even
don't have to translate,
hillbilly
so that means I
English?
can go on the deck swimming.
Hillbilly English, right?
No, but I try to translate everything very, yes,
In German.
in German, yeah. Doesn't make sense if I do that in English, no? Wie gesagt, I should translate your book. It's going to be a brochure.
I need it translated for German.
You can stand near us again, Andy,
Love?
if you like.
Please.
There are many awards and nominations that she has been given over the years in a lot of different areas of being creative. She was an Academy Award nominee for her songwriting. She is a Grammy nominee. That's a big award in America. Also, she has won an Emmy for a song called Aren't They All Our Children that she and David Foster wrote for World Children's Day. Now, in theater,
Yes, and talent, if you will, existed from the time I was about 9 years old. I used to always write poetry for my mom and dad and my family, like whether it was a happy birthday poem or happy Father's Day or happy Mother's Day. So it's something that I always felt compelled to do, because I was, like I said, an English major, so I always loved poetry and prose. And in the years that I was with Elvis, I did write love sonnets to him. I would write him all these beautiful little love poems, and he would look at them and say, honey, this is beautiful. Let me have someone put this to music and I'll record it. Because, you know, Elvis didn't write. He stylized like nobody else in the world, but he didn't write music. So he would say, let me have someone put this to music and I'll record it. But in my naivete at the time, I didn't realize how much money I could have made, actually, with the publishing, and, you know, as the songwriter, I didn't realize what that would mean. And I also didn't know at the time, you know, what it would mean to me later on in life to have had Elvis record some of my words. I mean, just the personal satisfaction that would have brought. There's a song that I wrote a few years ago called Grown Up Christmas List, and it's been recorded by Natalie Cole, Barbra Streisand, Michael Bublé, Kelly Clarkson, Amy Grant. Everybody has recorded the song, and I can't help but wish that I had written that song in the years that I was with Elvis, because he loved Christmas, and I think he would have just sang that song so beautifully. So yeah, I really kind of was not right enough to, you know, have him record some of my lyrics at the time. But yes, I was writing then as well.
Also meine Frage war, beautiful songs for other beautiful artists, so that's also good for us to hear them.
Thank you very much. That's sweet.
I was told to ask you about the origin of TCB.
Oh, well, and that was before my time, the origin, but it's taking care of business. And Elvis gave this gold necklace to all the gentlemen who were in the inner circle of his life. TCB necklaces made by Lowell Hayes. And it stood for taking care of business, which means, you gotta take care of business. And the lightning bolt meant right now, don't put it off. And for the ladies, it was TLC, which meant tender loving care. And that also had a lightning bolt, like now. So it was TLC for the ladies, tender loving care, and TCB for the men, taking care of business.
You're all, I'm sorry?
I don't think we need to translate that because, that was very understandable.
You're also an author, yes, an author, is that right?
An author.
An author.
Yeah, just an author.
Can you tell us about your book, A Little Thing Called Life, that was a New York Times bestseller?
Yeah, so I waited all these years. I never exploited my relationship with Elvis. I was very sensitive about never taking advantage of that time, and I was very guarded. So I never wanted to be accused of exploiting that relationship or capitalizing on it. So I waited like 42 years, whatever it was, when the book came out like 3 or 4 years ago. I waited all those years to tell my story about living with Elvis. And I think everybody else who even brushed shoulders with him wrote a book. But I waited, and I wanted to live my own life, carve out my own being, carve out my own history, carve out my own career, to talk about not just my years with Elvis, but as it related to the rest of my life. So the book was about growing up in Memphis, the kinship that Elvis and I shared, the closeness that we shared, our relationship, and then it went on to, this is a little ironic, but it went on to talk about how when we broke up, I wanted a normal life. I wanted to have children, and I wanted a more normal life than that rock and roll crazy life. So I married Bruce Jenner. Does everybody know who Bruce Jenner is? I thought I had my normal life.
It really worked, huh?
Yes, it's in the book. So I write about my years with Bruce and about that revelation. And again, I waited until Bruce revealed his truth, because I divorced him 30-something years ago when he revealed his truth to me. But I didn't think it was my place to reveal that to the world, so I waited until he came out with his truth and had enough dignity to do that, let him tell his story. Then I was able to write about how that impacted my life, which was huge. And then I write about my songwriting, and David Foster and I were together for 19 years, and we talk about that. And so it was kind of a book that encapsulated all the years up until now. I think 1981.
I always have to look inside the ring when I'm married.
Oh, no. I have a better memory than that. Bruce won the decathlon in '76, the world's greatest athlete title. I left Elvis in end of '76, December '76. I met Bruce in '79, and we married in '81.
Bruce Jenner 1981 geheiratet. Und ich hatte jetzt schon so viele Anfragen im Elvis-Land, wo die Leute gefragt haben, hast du das Buch von der Linda dabei? I've got so many requests when the people come to my shop on the cruise ship and they're asking for your book. Yeah. So I will let them know where they can order it. But the next...
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com, yeah.
Like everything else.
Okay, Amazon.com. And the next question is it only available in English?
I think it is sadly only available in English. I don't think it's been
We can
translated.
make a deal.
Let's do it. Talk to HarperCollins. Publishing.
Do it in German or Swahili, whatever you think, what kind of language I'm talking, Greg.
It sounds like almost English.
Sometimes.
Now, all those creative things, you have a wide variety of things that you're very good at, that you apparently love doing.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite thing among those things that you want to continue to do on and on?
I'll always write. I will always write poetry. I think that sometimes through like rose-colored glasses, that's how you see the world when you're a poet, when you like to write verse. And I often say that I'm like a stranger, in life. Like I'm always in awe at every place that I see, everyone that I meet. It's it's always new to me. You know, I never get jaded about anything. So I'm a tourist in my own life, and I'm like, you know, taking mental snapshots of everything that I see and all the people I meet, I'm interested in. So I think that because of that, because that's just innate within me, that I will always write, because it's such a great medium. And I think words are so powerful, and that's why it's important to use our words carefully. And I think it's just a really powerful medium, so I'll always write.
Great.
Write another book just on Elvis, and you know, dig deeper into what made him so complicated in his simplicity. He was such a simple man in so many ways, and yet so complex and so complicated and so dichotomous. He was such a paradox. You know, he was either like an angel that was too good for this earth. You would think this person is too good for this earth, or he could flip the switch and become like the devil incarnate when he was angry. So he was such a fascinating person.
Also der Elvis war sehr menschlich, so sage ich das auch immer. Ich sage, be ready right now for the floor to ask questions from you. Also ihr könnt jetzt gerne auch Fragen stellen, bitte wieder aufzeigen wie in der Schule. Zack, zack. Ich komme mal eben durch. Ich trete nicht auf dich drauf.
Hi, Linda. First of all, I just want to say how much I admire how you held off writing the book, both for Elvis and for the protection of Bruce Jenner, and let him do his own life and her. When she wanted to come out, you let her do it instead of you doing it for her. So I really appreciate that. But what I want to ask you is, where people have talked about who you're in contact with out of the Memphis Mafia. And I just wanted to know, are you in contact with any of the two Stanley boys that are still alive?
I just recently saw David Stanley. I went to Las Vegas, unrelated to anything that he was doing, but I let him know that I was going to be there, and he's working at the Westgate, which was our old International. So he said, will you come and have lunch with me? And I said, of course. So I went and had lunch with him, and he now has Parkinson's disease. I don't know if you knew that. So I went and had lunch with David Stanley. I'm in touch with Billy only through Facebook, like so many of us stay in touch with each other through Facebook or Instagram. So I'm in touch with Billy in that regard. And you know, like Sam might have said earlier, I know he and I have talked about it a lot, not many people are left, you know. We're all aging out and passing on. So sadly enough, you know, I don't see a lot of people. But Billy and Joe Smith, I adore them. Billy Smith was the closest person to Elvis. So Billy and Joe and I stay in touch, and I hope to see them. I'm actually going to Memphis this year to host Elvis Week. So I'll be taking people on tours through Graceland and hosting the week. So I'll see Billy and Joe then, and I'll hopefully see Billy Stanley as well.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And I stayed in touch with Joe Esposito until he passed away, Red West, and Sonny and Judy's son, Brian.
Also jeder ist immer noch in
In
Kontakt.
touch with all the people who were around during that time. I mean, there were 13 guys to walk by. All these guys are passed on. But until they did pass away, and Dick wrote, you know, we had something in common. It was such a rarefied experience. You know, not many people got to get close to Elvis and to travel with him, to go on the road with him, go on tours with him, stay in Vegas with him, see him at his best, see him at his worst. You know, that's what we lived. So it was like such a camaraderie that we had. And I always got along with everybody. I didn't have a problem with any of the guys. I was appreciative that they were looking out for him, and I think they in turn appreciated the fact that they knew they could trust me to take care of him. If I was with them, they didn't have to worry. It made their job easier.
Linda hat also immer
Antonio, right?
Antonio, sì. Als du mit Elvis zusammenkamst, wir wissen ja, Elvis war für die Frauen sehr charmant und sehr beliebt. Wie war das für dich? Bist du eifersüchtig gewesen oder wie bist du mit dem umgegangen?
When you were getting together with Elvis, and we all know how charming Elvis was, and there were so many other ladies around him, were you ever jealous about other ladies when you were together with Elvis?
Not really, not what I would call jealous. I was guarded after a while because I realized that I would think someone was my friend, and I would realize, oh, she likes me for me. How are you doing? And then I would realize, oh wait, no, they don't see me. They're going right through me to Elvis. So and after the first year, he had dalliances. He never had another girlfriend who lived with him or anything in the time that I was with him. So that's been misrepresented in the press and even by some of the people who thought they were his girlfriend. But I was living at Graceland for 4.5 years, and I was on the road with him for 4.5 years. And there was no other girlfriend. There were cheats. There were like dalliances. He was not monogamous. But the first year he was, and then after that, I knew if I wasn't around, he'd be with someone else. And that was hurtful to me. I can't lie, it hurt. But I tried to understand, and I tried to understand that it was Elvis, and he had certain needs, and he was sequestered with the same 13 people all the time. Couldn't go out, couldn't be around a lot of other people. So he liked to bring other people into him, just to have some conversations that were new to him, some faces that were new to him, some people. It didn't necessarily mean that he was going to fall in love, which he certainly didn't during that time, until maybe the very end. His last girlfriend, I think, he cared about it a great deal. So yeah, I wasn't really jealous, and I was kind of happy to share him because I thought he was such a magnificent being and had so much love to give, and everyone loved him so much. I couldn't blame the other girls, honestly. Even when he had an affair with other girls, I didn't really blame them. It's like, if you're gonna say no to Elvis Presley, that they didn't care about me. I know that, so it's fine. But I just don't believe in holding a grudge or being jealous or having animosity. You just kind of understand everybody's human, and you just have to allow for that.
A question back here.
I have a two-part question, if I may. Over the years, I've heard that Elvis was thinking about writing his own autobiography through my eyes or something. And the second part is if you could elaborate on the martial arts documentary that he was working on as well, please.
Okay. He was not planning to write his own autobiography, but he did say to me on occasion, he said, honey, do you ever wonder why you're here? Out of all the women I could be with, why are you here? And I said, yeah, of course. Sometimes I wonder, how did I get so lucky? And how am I so blessed to be loved by you? And he said, maybe one day you'll write about me and you'll tell the things about me that I think are important. So we actually had that conversation. And I have in my writing and in my speaking, in my everyday life, I have tried to represent him with a lot of respect and dignity and love, and not say disparaging things about him. Like I said, we're all human. And the truth is the truth, and certainly he was a very flawed man. Sometimes the greater the person, the more flawed they are. But I think we have a tendency to put him on a pedestal and not allow him to be human. And the martial arts film, yeah, he thought that would be just a great representative of who he was, because he had a great passion for the martial arts. So he started we filmed a couple of things. He was at Conway's studio, and there's one little clip that I keep seeing over and over on social media. He's walking up the stairs and he's got his karate gi on, and I have this red bell-bottom outfit on, and I step in and I'm waving, being silly like I usually was. And so there's that little clip of the beginning of what would have been the karate movie, but it never came to fruition. It never was fully realized.
Also die Frage war, ob der Elvis als seine Auto seit 40 Minuten ungefähr Bewegungsfilm
There's, I've gotten to know your brother and you, and I should say this, I'm from Northeast Arkansas, where Monad is.
Yes.
I worked in radio at KBIB in Monad. My father, who was over there, had a grocery store in Monad. So we got a little tie.
The grocery store, probably the only one, right?
It was Farmer's Market, strangely enough. There was a quote that I found, and I think
your brother said it. You speak with such love and fondness and deep understanding and forgiveness about Elvis, recognizing his humanity. There was something that Ed Parker said. You probably seen the quote. It just stunned me when I read it. But we all were shocked and saddened in 1977. There we go. Ed Parker, who was his sensei, is that correct?
He was a karate expert.
Well, he said something that I think Sam, your brother, had quoted in an article that I found, and it explains the complexity of what happened in '77 in such an abbreviated life. He said, "You cannot protect a man from himself." Wow.
You know, it's interesting because Elvis, in many ways, when the lights blink, I know that's him, by the way. Elvis, in many ways, was my muse, is my muse for a lot of the songs that I've written, a lot of the lyrics that I've written, and that reminded me of, did anybody see The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston?
Yeah.
So the song that was nominated for an Academy Award, I Have Nothing, was inspired largely by Elvis because Whitney Houston's character was such a diva in this movie. There's the line, "Stay in my arms if you dare," because it's such a challenge to be with someone like that powerful, that bigger than life. But you know, there was a line in there about, "I can't run from myself, there's no place to hide." And so that's one of the lines that I thought about, you know, with Elvis. There was nowhere else to go. You know, I can't run from myself, there's no place to hide. And that got to be his, you know, his fate.
Ed Parker, der Karatelehrer,
It was completely about him. And anyone that you ever lost when they pass away was To Where You Are by Josh Groban. Do you know Josh Groban, the artist? So it's it's about someone who's passed on. And Richard Marx wrote the music, and I wrote the lyric for that song. So Elvis is still my inspiration in so many ways.
Ladies and gentlemen, Linda Thomson, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So thank God for all of you, because you keep his memory and his legacy and his music alive. And if it weren't for you, you know, who knows how long he would have been remembered. But you deserve all the credit. And, you know, I'm grateful for all of y'all that's hillbilly talk for everybody. All of y'all.
Morgen haben wir die Autogramm-Session mit den Männern, übermorgen mit der Linda. Ihr werdet hier auf der Cruise noch viel Gelegenheit haben, die Dünner kennenzulernen, zu treffen, Fotos zu machen und dergleichen. Ich wünsche euch jetzt noch einen schönen Abend und denkt bitte daran, wenn ihr rausgeht, bitte nochmal nach euren Fotos schauen. Wir haben die Umschläge vorne liegen. Ja? Ich bedanke mich. Danke, ciao.
Ja, da ist die ganze Stunde da.
Monio.